The forest was deathly quiet. Alpha Elias Storm crouched low beneath a pine ridge, his dark uniform blending into the shadows. The cold bit at exposed skin, but he remained perfectly still, focused. His black eyes narrowed. He didn't feel the cold anymore. He hadn't in years. Behind him, a half-circle of elite enforcers mirrored his posture, silent, disciplined, lethal. These weren't mere wolves. These were soldiers. The best Stormwatch pack had to offer. And under Elias's command, they didn't miss movement, murmured Kale, Elias's beta, from just behind his left shoulder. 3 rogues, southeast perimeter. They're heading toward the ridge. Elias didn't respond immediately. Instead, he inhaled deeply, one long drag through his nose, and caught the scent that had been troubling him since they crossed the southern border. Smoke, dirt, blood, and something else. Lavender, but not the calming kind. This was laced with wild ozone and something sharp, wrong. Power, twisted and buried. Which, no, not quite. He stood fluidly, straight-backed and dangerous. Circle them. Don't engage until I say. Kale nodded, orders received. The warriors melted into the woods. Elias remained still. The presence was closer now. Watching, he could feel it brushing against his instincts like ice down his spine. A foreign presence that didn't cower, that didn't run. It was waiting for him. That irritated him more than anything. The rogue didn't run. She didn't even flinch when Elias finally came upon her in a clearing bathed in silver moonlight. She stood in the center, barefoot, blood on her knuckles, a tear at her shoulder where one of his men had nearly gotten her. But her face, it was still calm, defiant, and those eyes moonlit, not silver, not blue, a mix, like moonlight on storm water, and they glowed. Elias took one step forward, slow and controlled. You killed one of mine. He tried to kill me first, she said. Her voice was steady. Cool. Kale emerged behind her, blade pressed to her back. She didn't shift, fought like a feral, no scent of a pack. She's alone. She's not just rogue, Elias said quietly. The woman met his gaze, and something shifted in the air. It was subtle, but he felt it. His wolf stirred, not in warning, in interest. Elias narrowed his eyes. Name, she said nothing. Kale pressed the blade in deeper. Alpha asked a question. Still silent. Elias walked forward until he stood directly in front of her, close enough to smell her skin blood, forest, lavender, and moonlight. You are either very brave, he said, or very stupid. I don't have a name, she replied. Not anymore. Then you're nobody. I'm still standing. That earned a twitch of Elias's lip, not quite a smile, more a dark amusement. Kale's fingers tightened on the blade. Say the word, Alpha. But Elias didn't give the order. Instead, he reached forward and grasped the front of her throat, not hard enough to choke but enough to dominate. Her pulse didn't spike. Her eyes didn't drop. Who the hell was this girl? His wolf growled. In his chest, demanding more. Possessiveness flickered in the back of his mind, and Elias immediately shoved it down. Not now. Not ever. He released her. Chain her, he said coldly. She's coming with us, but she's not to be touched. If anyone lays a hand on her without my command, I'll take yours in return. Kale blinked, understood. Elias turned without another glance, but even as he walked away, he could feel her gaze still burning into his back. Stormwatch Fortress was carved into the mountain itself, stone walls reinforced with steel, a military compound designed to keep things in just as much as out. Sienna, because Elias had decided she did have a name. Even if she refused to share, it sat on the far side of the holding room. Her hands were bound, her ankles chained to the wall, yet her posture was relaxed, as if she were waiting for something or someone. Elias stood in the observation hallway, arms folded behind his back, eyes locked on the one-way glass. She hasn't spoken since arrival, Cale said at his side. Refuses food, water, won't answer our questions. She's waiting for me. Cale grimaced. Alpha, we don't know what she is. That mark on her shoulder, it glows. I know, could be a witch's brand, could be cursed. She's not a witch. Cale paused. You felt it too, didn't you? Elias didn't reply, because, yes, he'd felt it. His wolf hadn't shut up since they brought her in. Every breath she took, every heartbeat he sensed, it clawed at him, snarling, demanding mate. No, not possible. He pushed the door open and stepped into the room. Sienna didn't look up, back to ask my name again. Elias closed the door behind him. No, I've decided I don't need it. She asked calmly, I'll call you what you are. And what's that? Mine. That got a reaction. She looked up sharply, eyes narrowing. You wish. I don't wish. I command. Sienna stood, chains rattling. You think you can chain fate, Alpha? Fate bleeds like anything else. He walked closer, one step, then another, until they were inches apart. You have no idea what you are, he murmured. But I'll find out, and when you do, his gaze darkened. Then I'll decide if you live. Sleep evaded Elias. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her standing in the moonlight, hair tangled, face defiant, and eyes glowing like a goddess reborn. The dreams were strange, not memories, visions, woman. In white armor, kneeling before him on a battlefield of stars, a voice whispering his name in a language he'd never spoken, and always the moon. Watching, judging. He rose before dawn and walked into the war room, where Cale waited with his usual report. Another border attack, Cale said. 2 dead vampires this time. They're moving more frequently, Elias said absently. Cale hesitated. You should get rid of her. Whatever she is, it's drawing them. Elias looked up. You think I don't know that? Then, why keep her alive? Elias stood and turned toward the window. Because I want to understand why my wolf wants to mate her. Silence, then Cale muttered, Shit. Exactly. Elias stood outside the reinforced door of Sienna's chamber. Not a cell he hadn't put her. In the dungeons, she wasn't a prisoner anymore. Not exactly inside. She sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes closed as if she knew he'd come. He stepped in and shut the door behind him. She didn't open her eyes. You dreamed again. How do you know I felt it, liar? She opened her eyes slowly. What did you see? Elias didn't answer. Instead, he stepped forward and reached for her. He only meant to touch her shoulder, but the second his hand made contact, everything exploded. His wolf roared to life, snapping the walls of his control like dry twigs. A savage growl ripped from his chest. His fangs dropped. His claws burst through skin. Sienna gasped as her body lit up in silver flamed a mark on her shoulder, glowing bright like Moonfire, and Elias Alpha of Stormwatch, killer of King's Breaker. Of Bloodlines dropped to his knees in front of her. His voice was guttural, ragged. What are you? Sienna looked down at him, eyes glowing, lips parted, and for the first time her voice trembled. I think I'm yours. Stormwatch's medical. Wing was sterile, silent, and buried beneath 20 feet of reinforced steel. Only Elias, Kale, and the healers were permitted insidely when dealing with someone like her. Sienna sat on the examination table, wrists resting in her lap. She looked bored, but Elias didn't miss the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes tracked every movement with predator calm. Across from her, healer Myra prepped a vial of her blood. The woman was in her 70s, silver-haired and blunt-tongued, but respected even by Elias. Her hands trembled slightly as she inserted the needle. Still don't like needles, Sienna muttered. You'll survive, Elias said coldly, standing behind her with his arms folded. Kale was near the exit, watching her like a hawk. He didn't trust her, Hand made no secret of it. Maria withdrew the blood. It shimmered in the tube not red, but tinged with faint silver. She held it up to the light and frowned. What in the goddess's name? Elias stepped forward. What is it? Maria walked over to the analysis table and placed the sample inside the scanner. The machine began to hum and then screeched, power flickering. It's rejecting the scan, Maria said. Blood like this shouldn't exist. Kale's hand hovered near his blade. She's not normal. I told you. I never claimed to be normal, Sienna said, calm. Just not your enemy. Elias ignored them both. What's in her blood? Traces of celestial energy. I've seen it once before. A century ago, a child born under a cursed moon. She died within days. I'm not dying, Sienna said softly. Maria looked at her with uneasy eyes. No, you're not. In fact, your blood is strengthening, evolving. Elias stepped closer to her, his voice low. What the hell are you? Sienna looked up at him. I don't know, she whispered, but I think it's waking up. The interrogation chamber had no windows, just a steel table, 2 chairs, and a single overhead light. Sienna sat across from Elias, her wrists unbound, but only because he'd ordered it. Kale, once again, disapproved. Loudly, she shouldn't be in here alone with you, he said earlier. She's dangerous. So am I, Elias had answered. Now they sat, facing one another. A battle of silence. You brought me down here to intimidate me, she asked eventually. No, Elias said. I brought you here because I can't think straight when you're too close. Her brow lifted. Oh. I want to understand why my instincts are telling me to claim you, he said. Why my wolf rages when I'm not near you, and why my dreams are filled with your face. Sienna didn't smile. You think I have the answers. I think you're hiding them. And if I am, I'll tear them out of you. That made her laugh, low-throaty. Your threats are predictable, Alpha, but you don't scare me. Good, he said. Fear makes things messy. He stood and walked round the table. Sienna stiffened slightly as he circled her predator. Around prey, you're not just a rogue, he murmured. And you're not just my mate. Then what am I? He leaned down, lips brushing her ear, mine. Her breath caught, but then she turned her head and looked him in the eye. If you mark me, you'll regret it. Why? Because I'm not yours to claim, she whispered. And if you try, others will come for me. Gods, monsters, things older than your bloodline. Elias's jaw clenched. He didn't scare easily, but something in her voice made even his wolf hesitate. Stormwatch rarely summoned the oracle. She lived beyond the mountains, a fire-marked creature older than any pack elder, blind in both eyes, but seeing more than any should. Only Elias and Kale made the journey. They arrived in the early morning, the mountains cloaked in mist. The oracle's home was a cave of bones and runes. Guarded by silence, she was waiting. You bring war on your back. Alpha, the oracle rasped as they stepped in. Elias inclined his head. You've seen her. I see through her. Kale remained silent, his eyes never leaving the oracle. She is the moon touched, the oracle said, the one who holds both death and divinity, and she is yours. You cannot run from it. Elias's hands curled into fists. Is she a threat to my pack? Yes, the oracle said, and no, she will burn the weak and raise the loyal. But mark this, her blind eyes turned toward him. The moon returns in flesh. Guard her, or doom follows. Elias's heart thundered. Others will hunt her, she said. Not for power, for fear, for prophecy. She is the end of the old blood, and the beginning of something terrible. Kale swore under his breath. Then why? Let her live. The oracle's smile empty and terrible, because she is your fate, and if you kill her, the world ends screaming. By the time they returned to the fortress, the tension in the air was heavy. Elias entered the war room and immediately felt the shift. The warriors, those who had once bowed without question, now stood stiffly, eyes wary. Kale stood by his side, scanning the room. She's infected something, Kale murmured. They're afraid. I don't rule by fear, Elias said. You don't, Kale agreed. But they're starting to think you should. One warrior stepped forward. Lauren, a seasoned fighter, loyal for years. Alpha, Lauren said carefully. We request a council vote on the rogue's status. Elias's expression didn't change. You request. Lorene hesitated. You've risked too much for her. We don't understand what she is. We don't know if she's controlling you. Kale's hand was already on his weapon, but Elias didn't move. Instead, he looked across the room and said, You think I'm compromised? We think you're blind to the danger she poses. Elias walked forward, slow and lethal. When I saved this pack from the Crimson Reapers, where were you? Lorene looked down, fighting beside you. When I bled for this fortress, for this land, when I watched my brother, did I hesitate? No, then know this. Elias's voice dropped. I have never hesitated, and I'm not starting now. He turned on his heel. Anyone who speaks against me again, he said, can take it up with the wall. No one moved, no one spoke. The rebellion died in silence that night. Elias stood at the edge of Sienna's chamber. He didn't knock, he entered. She looked up from the window, the moonlight catching her face. Back already? I should kill you, he said, voice raw. I should throw your body to the river and end this, but you won't. No. He crossed the room and grabbed her shoulders, hard. Tell me what you are. Tell me, her. Hands came up, gripping his arms, not to pull away but to ground herself. Something ancient, she whispered. Something they tried to bury, but it's still in me. I can feel it. What happens if I mark you? Elias growled. War, she said simply. Every creature that's waited in the shadows, they'll come. To stop us, to claim me, to end me. He leaned down, breath hot on her neck. I want to mark you, he confessed. It's driving me insane. I know, but I won't do it, he said, pulling back. Not yet. Not until I know you won't destroy everything I built. Sienna stared at him, and for once, she looked afraid. Then you'd better decide quickly, she said. Why? She turned to the window and whispered, because they're coming. The courtyard was silent, save for the ring of steel against steel. Elias watched from the shadows as Sienna dodged Cale's blade, her body moving with a grace that was unnerving fluid, almost inhuman. She hadn't shifted once during training. She didn't need to. You're holding back, Cale snapped, circling her. If you want to survive in this pack, you'll need to stop fighting like you're dancing. I'm not holding back, Sienna replied, panting lightly. You're just too used to fighting wolves. Cale lunged again, this time aiming for her side. She ducked low, twisted, and in one quick movement, disarmed him, his blade clattering to the stones. Elias stepped forward, arms folded. Impressive, Sienna turned, sweat glistening on her temple. Was that a compliment? No, he said. It's a warning. Cale retrieved his sword, scowling. She's not a soldier, Elias. You can't make her one of us. She doesn't need to be one of us, Elias replied. She needs to be lethal enough to stay alive. Then why train her at all? Cale asked. Why not lock her in the tower where she can't get hurt or hurt us? Because she's mine to command, Elias said coldly. And I don't command prisoners, I command weapons. He turned to Sienna, again, this time with Liv. Steel, Cale froze. Alpha, she can handle it, Elias cut in. Can't you? Sienna's smile was slow and dangerous. Try me. Night fell with a hush of snow. Sienna lay in the private chamber Elias had assigned her no longer. A cell, but not quite a room either. Guarded at every door. Surrounded by wolves she couldn't trust. Still, it was better than a dungeon. Her body ached from training, bruises blooming along her ribs and forearms. Cale didn't go easy on her. Elias even less so, but she welcomed the pain. It made her feel alivened right now. She needed that reminder. The mark on her shoulder pulsed faintly under the moonlight streaming through the high window. She touched it with her fingers, as if trying to still the rhythm. And then flames, screams. Blood on stone, a child crying, a temple burning. Sienna bolted upright with a gasp. Her skin was cold, her heart thundered. The scent of smoke lingered. She stumbled from the bed, gripping the edge of the wall for balance. Her vision swam with fractured images fire, licking up walls. A woman in silver robes crumbling into ash, and someone watching her. From above, a voice echoed in her mind. You were reborn for war, not love. A knock rattled the door. Sienna. Elias's voice was muffled but tense. Open it. She dragged herself over and opened the door. Elias stepped in, eyes sweeping over her in an instant. What happened? I saw something, a memory, but not mine. At least, I don't think it was. Elias stepped closer, catching her by the chin to study her face. You're burning up. She flinched, but didn't pull away. He frowned. Your powers are surfacing. Then help me control them, she whispered. You trust me that much? No, she said, but I think I'm starting to trust you. Focus, Elias barked. Sienna twisted, ducked, and drove her elbow into Cale's ribs. He grunted, but didn't fall. Elias stood at the edge of the sparring ring, eyes locked on Sienna's form. She was stronger today, faster, and far more aggressive. Cale swept her legs. She hit the ground hard, rolled, and came up on her feet again. But Elias had already moved. 1 second, he was still. The next, he was in the ring. Sienna turned, startled, just as Elias lunged. Their bodies collided, and the impact sent them skidding across the arena floor. He pinned her down, one hand on her throat, the other braced beside her head. Breathless, alive, snarling, her eyes sparked with moonlight, his with rage. "You're distracted," he growled. "You're the distraction," she shot back. He stared at her chest rising and falling. Her lips were parted, her heart hammered beneath his hand, and his wolf howled with want. "Do it," she whispered. His mouth crashed onto hers. It wasn't soft. It wasn't sweet. It was war. She bit his lip. He growled and grabbed her harder, deepening the kiss until it felt like drowning. Then she pushed him back, panting. "No," Elias blinked, the haze breaking. "No," he rasped. "I won't be." "Claimed in a training ring," she said, voice shaking. "Not like that." She stood, wiping blood from her lip, and walked out. Elias didn't follow. Not because he didn't want to, but because he would have finished what they started. He couldn't afford to lose control. Not yet. Elias jerked awake, sweat rolling down his spine. The dream still clung to him like smoke, vivid, wrong, and impossibly real. He had stood on a field of bones, his armor splattered in blood. At his feet knelt a woman in silver and black, her face identical to Sienna's, but she wore a crown, made of moonlight, and when he reached for her she bared her fangs and said, "You are the storm that breaks me, and the end that claims me." He rose, pacing the room, trying to shake the image. Elias didn't dream. He barely slept. His mind was a fortress, and she arrived down the hall. He heard a cry. Sienna. He was out the door in seconds. Her room was dark, the air thick with power. Sienna sat on the floor, hands on her head, eyes glowing silver. "Sienna," he called. She looked up. "Elias, something's wrong. I can't shut it off." He dropped beside her. "Breathe. Focus. I see fire again, a temple, and something inside me trying to wake up." He grabbed her hands. "You're not alone." Her breath hitched. "It wants out, then let it come," he said. "I'll hold the line." She stared at him, and for the first time, she looked like she believed him. Stormwatch's perimeter. Alarms howled before sunrise. Elias stood at the war table, reading the scouts' reports. Kale stood beside him, jaw clenched. "Another pack sent spies last night," Kale said. "Vampires, too. And a witch coven contacted the East Border Guards, said they want an audience." "They've heard about her," Elias said. "And they're afraid. They should be." Elias looked out the window toward the mountain forest. "She's not ready," he muttered. "If they come now, then we fight," Kale said. "Not until I know what we're protecting." Sienna entered the room then, dressed in black, a blade at her hip. Her mark glowed faintly beneath her collarbone. She met Elias's eyes. "Let me fight." "No." She stepped closer. "You've trained me. You've seen what I can do. Don't sideline me." "If they take you, Sienna, it's not just a loss," he said. "It's the end of everything." "Then let me help." "You stop it." Silence. Kale exhaled through his nose. "She's right. We can't protect her forever. She has to fight." Elias's jaw tightened. Then he nodded. "Then we prepare," he said. "Because the war doesn't start tomorrow. It starts now." Elias hadn't seen Celeste Varin in over 3 years. He'd ended their engagement with a single sentence and never looked back. political, arranged, convenient. She'd always known he would never love her. But still, when she walked into Stormwatch's war chamber, wearing polished armor and frost diamond earrings, she smiled like she owned the room. "Hello, Elias." Cale stiffened. At Elias's side, Elias didn't look up from the war map. "Why are you here?" "Your guards escorted me in." Her voice was smooth, calculated. "We still share blood rights, remember? My name's on the Northern Treaty." "Not anymore," Elias said. Celeste stepped forward, her heels echoing across stone. "The Pax are whispering. They say you've taken a rogue under your protection. A girl with glowing marks and a dangerous scent. She's none of your concern. Is she your Luna now?" Celeste's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Because if so, the elders will tear you apart. She's not my Luna, but you want her to be." Her voice sharpened. "I see it in your eyes." Elias looked up at last, eyes dark. "You came to lecture me on appearances, Celeste. You, who courted a beta behind my back and then cried when I walked away." Cale looked down quickly, hiding a smirk. Her smile faded. "You're risking your legacy for a myth." "I am the legacy," Elias said coldly. "And she's the only thing I've ever wanted without politics attached." Celeste stared at him. "Then you're already lost." Elias didn't blink. "Then let the world burn." Sienna stood in the training yard, chest heaving, arms trembling. She had just fought 5 of Elias's best enforcers and won, barely. Cale tossed her a canteen. "You're not bad for a cursed mystery girl." "Thanks," she muttered, drinking deep. "Try not to pass out before the next round." "I'll survive." Cale grinned faintly. "I'm starting to believe that." Across the yard, Elias watched from the second-floor balcony, arms crossed. His eyes never left her. Sienna tossed the empty canteen and turned toward the training dummy, a thick post of reinforced wood wrapped in iron rings. She cracked her neck. Focused on her hand, burst into flame. It wasn't heat she felt. It was pressure, force, power. The fire danced up her arm, glowing white-blue. Before she could stop it, a second later, the training dummy exploded. Splinters and iron shrieking through the air. Everyone went still. Sienna looked down at her hands. The flame was gone. Her palms were untouched. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. Cale took a slow step back. "You didn't mean to." Elias was already there. He appeared beside her without warning, grabbed her hand, inspecting it. "You've never done this before?" he asked, voice low. "No," she said. "I didn't feel anything until it was too late." "It's instinct," Elias murmured. "It's waking up." She looked at him, frightened. "Am I losing control?" He met her eyes. "No, you're finding it." The moonlight poured into Sienna's chamber like liquid silver dot. She sat on the edge of the bed, fingers tracing the edge of the glowing mark on her shoulder. It had changed, sharpened. What once was a simple crescent now had fangs, claws, ancient runes weaved outward like roots. She wore one of Elias's shirts. Again stolen without permission, but unchallenged. Elias entered without knocking, as usual. "Let me see it." She turned her shoulder toward him. Elias crossed the room and slowly, without a word, pressed his palm over the mark. The air crackled. The runes lit up. Sienna gasped. He didn't remove his hand. "You feel it too," she whispered. Elias's voice was low, rough. "My wolf wants to bite you right now, tear into your throat and claim you." She didn't flinch. "Why don't you?" "Because once I do, we're bound for life." spirit, body, soul. And you don't want that. I don't want fate deciding for me, he growled. But every time I touch you, I want to forget that. Their eyes locked, and the mark pulsed brighter. Sienna touched his jaw. Then maybe fate isn't the enemy. He stepped back, barely, double quotes, not yet, he said. Not until I know what you really are. The great council chamber was carved from volcanic obsidian, ancient as war and cold as judgment. Elders from the allied packs filled the circle, seated in their ceremonial robes, their eyes sharp and heavy with tradition. Sienna stood alone in the center. Elias stood at her side. Gasps rippled through the room, and Alpha standing beside a rogue. It was unprecedented, dangerous. Alpha Elias, Elder Marius, began, voice gravel-thick. You bring a moon-touched into our midst, a being we cannot define. Do you offer her blood to be tested? No, Elias said. The room erupted. She could be a threat. She could be a god. She could be cursed. Elias's voice cut through the noise like steel. She is mine. Silence. Cale stood behind them, hand near his blade. Celeste stood off to the side with a smug smirk. Then she faces the trial by blood, Marius said. Let the flame test her. If she is truth, she will survive. If she is lie, she will burn. Sienna looked at Elias. You sure about this? No, he said, but I'll burn with you if they try. They led her to the altar of flames, an ancient stone slab, surrounded by burning torches and carved with the names of those who had died screaming on it. Sienna stood barefoot on the platform, the elders chanting in tongues older than werewolf lore. Flames rose around her. She said nothing until her eyes began to glow. The fire turned blue and then exploded outward. Chaos guards moved. Elders shouted. One council member, Wolf, named Corin, lunged at her in panic, sword raised. Elias snapped. He shifted halfway, claws tearing from his hands, fangs baring. In a blur, he slammed into Corin and drove him into the stone with a roar so brutal the walls trembled. Blood sprayed. Elias crouched over the body, growling like a rabid beast, his eyes black with rage. Elias. Cale shouted. They're watching. Sienna ran forward. Elias was shaking, claws tightening, on the edge of madness. She placed her hand over his heart. Come back to me, she whispered. His eyes locked onto hers. The rage fell away. The wolf receded. He collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. The room was silent. Elder Marius finally stood. The girl lives. She commands the flame. The bond is real. He looked down at Elias and Sienna and bowed. All hail the moon-touched. The council chamber burned. Smoke curled into the air like rising ghosts. Screams echoed as enforcers turned on one another. Chaos, betrayal, and blood igniting faster than any spark could justify. It had been a trap. The moment Sienna survived the trial of flame, a faction of elders rose in protest. Old warriors aligned with the Witches' Guild, vampire emissaries who had sat silent until now, unsheathed blades. Etched in silver, Cale appeared beside Elias in the blur of combat, sword drawn. Ambush. They've allied, witches, vampires, traitor packs, all here for her. Elias was already moving. He grabbed Sienna by the wrist. We move now. They're everywhere, she said, her breath tight. You stay near me, Elias. Snapped, dragging her toward the eastern hall. I will not lose you. As they sprinted through the corridor, Cale slashed down a vampire in their path, his blade singing. There's a tunnel exit beyond the west shrine. Move. A bolt of witchfire seared past them. Elias turned, eyes pitch black, and caught the next blast with his bare hand, redirecting it into a wall with sheer rage and willpower. Blood streamed down his arm. Sienna cried out. "You're hit," I said, "keep moving." But the moment they reached the stone passage and sealed the exit behind them, Elias collapsed against the wall, sliding down, hand pressed to his ribs. His shirt was soaked in red. Sienna dropped to her knees beside him, voice trembling. "No, no, stay with me." His voice was ragged. "Go, Sienna, leave me. Save yourself. Shut up." She placed both palms over the wound. Her mark flared to life. Runes shimmered under her skin and flowed into him like silver threads weaving through flesh and bone. He gasped, body arching, blood boiling, and then the wound closed. Just like that, Elias blinked up at her. She was glowing. "You healed me," he whispered. Sienna collapsed into his arms. "I told you, I'm not normal." Elias pulled her tighter against him. "I never wanted normal," he breathed. They found shelter in an abandoned outpost hidden within the ravine, half by earth and time. Inside, the walls were cracked but standing, a place where no pack dared go forgotten, unmarked territory. Cale remained outside, standing guard, blade never far. Sienna sat on a fur-lined cot beside Elias. He leaned against the wall, shirtless. Now, the wound gone, but the memory still fresh. "I should have seen it coming," he muttered. "No one saw it coming," she said. His eyes met hers. "I'm Alpha. I don't get to make mistakes. Especially not when they almost cost me you." She looked away. "I'm used to being a target. I'm not used to caring." His voice lowered. "But I do." Sienna froze. "I don't know. When it happened," Elias said, "maybe the moment you looked at me without fear, or the first time you bled and still stood taller than anyone in the room." "I'm not lunar material," she whispered. "I don't care what the elders say. You're mine, Sienna, mate or monster, goddess or weapon." Tears shimmered in her eyes. She stood and turned away. "I see things, dreams, visions, not just of now, of before." He stood too, slower this time. "Before what?" "Before this life," she whispered. "I've seen myself in cities that no longer exist, speaking languages I don't know, dressed in robes made of stars." Elias stepped closer. "What if I'm not just touched by the moon?" she asked. "What if I'm something that was never meant to come back?" Elias gently cupped her face. "Then let them come for you. I'll still be at your side." Stormwatch was no longer safe. They moved with night's cover, skirting the vampire-run territories and witch-claimed trails. Elias, Cale, and Sienna, 3 fugitives bound by survival. Cale scanned the tree line. "We're being tracked. Vampires, definitely. And something else. Smells like cash and venom." "Which mercenaries?" Elias growled. "We can't outrun." "Them all," Cale added. Sienna stepped forward, her eyes glowing faintly. "Then we won't." Elias grabbed her arm. "Sienna, I know a ward," she said. "Old words. I don't know how I know them, but they burn." Elias's jaw ticked. "How strong?" Sienna dropped to her knees and placed her palm against the forest floor. "Strong enough." She whispered something no one understood, language that didn't belong to this earth. The trees shivered. Light burst in a ring around them, silver, sharp, burning brighter than any moon. Screams erupted from the woods as shadows hit the warding line and were ripped apart by the force. When the light faded, the forest was still. Cale stared. You just vaporized half the hunting party. Sienna's hands were shaking. It was instinct. Elias wrapped his arms around her from behind, holding her close. You're not losing control. You're remembering. I didn't mean to. Kill them, she said quietly. They meant to kill us, he replied. You just beat them to it. The trail ended at the mouth of a ruin hidden deep in the mountains. Stone pillars, cracked and overgrown, reached skyward like broken fingers. Carvings covered in vines told stories in a forgotten tongue. This is it, Sienna whispered. I've been here before. Cale frowned. That's not possible. I have, she insisted. In a dream or a memory. They stepped inside. The air inside the temple was thick not with dust, but with presence. The walls pulsed faintly, as if alive. In the center, a stone dais. A basin full of silver water. Sienna stepped toward it and touched the edge. The moment her skin made contact, her mark exploded in light. She screamed. Elias caught her as her body collapsed against him, her eyes wide, unseeing. Sienna, he shouted. She was shaking, glowing and whispering in that same ancient tongue. Cale drew his weapon, spinning toward the shadows. Something's here, watching. But Elias couldn't move. He was locked in place, watching her become something more. And then she exhaled. The light dimmed. Her eyes opened. I remember, she whispered. I remember her. Elias's heart thudded. Who? Sienna looked up at him, trembling. The moon goddess. Sienna stood at the edge of the dais, her hands trembling as the vision overtook her. She wasn't in her body anymore. She was in hers. The vessel, the girl cloaked in moonlight, running through the stars, pursued by celestial beasts with eyes like suns and blades forged in time. The moon goddess had hidden her soul inside a mortal shell to keep it from the gods who had betrayed her, from the celestial kings who feared her power, from fate itself, and now it was waking again. She stumbled back into the present, gasping. Elias caught her. What did you see? I was her, she whispered. She ran, she hid, she gave me her power, her soul. I'm not just the moon-touched Elias. She looked up at him, eyes shining like galaxies. I'm her reborn. Cale cursed under his breath. What does that make us, then? Elias's eyes never left her. I don't care if you're a goddess, he said. He cupped her face, voice low and savage. You're still mine. Stormwatch was no longer Elias's. In his absence, Cale had taken control of the fortress under the guise of protecting the pack. His authority was backed by warriors loyal to Elias as an alpha, not as a man mated to a moon-touched goddess. They whispered that Elias had gone soft, cursed, claimed by a power no wolf should bind to. In the war chamber, Cale stood before the council of lieutenants. He's not coming back, Cale said coldly. And if he does, he'll bring the storm. With him, Commander Lorin crossed his arms. He's still Alpha. No, Cale snapped. He abandoned us, for her, a rogue, a living weapon. You all saw what she did at the council. If Elias has bound himself to that power, then he's not our Alpha anymore. Silence. Cale slammed his fist into the stone table. I served Elias Storm for 7 years. I bled for him, killed for him, but I won't watch him drown for a myth. Celeste leaned against the wall, arms crossed, amused. So, what do you plan to do? Kill him when he returns? I won't have to, Kale said darkly. If he completes the bond with her, he'll be too far gone. The pack won't follow a male lead by divine madness. You always hated her, Celeste said. I feared her, Kale corrected. And fear has its purpose. Outside the fortress, storm clouds churned, and far off in the forest, Elias opened his eyes. He felt the betrayal ripple through the bond, like a blade drawn across his spine. They stood in the moonlit clearing, a sacred ring of ancient stones surrounding them. The ground pulsed with old magic, wild, primal, untouched by any pack law. Elias faced Sienna, chest bare, jaw tight. This is your choice, he said. Not fate's, not the goddess's, yours. Sienna stepped closer, heart pounding. You're asking me to bond myself to a storm. I warned you from the beginning, Elias said, voice low. I'm not kind, I don't heal. I protect what's mine and I never let go. She lifted her hand, palm up. Then take me. Elias pressed his palm to hers. The world held its breath. The bond ignited. Power surged through the earth. Through them fire, wind, blood, moonlight. The mark on her shoulder spread across her chest in silver. Vine's own chest, seared with matching runes. Sienna gasped. Elias snarled, gripping her tighter as the heat surged. Her eyes glowed. His claws extended. The earth trembled beneath them. When their lips met, it wasn't gentle. It was need, fire. Completion. The bond snapped into place like a chain forged by gods, and Elias whispered into her mouth, "You're mine now." Sienna pulled back just enough to say, "And you're mine." Then the stars erupted. Sienna collapsed onto the forest floor, body arched in agony. Elias knelt beside her. "Sienna," she screamed. The runes across her body burned white. Her skin shimmered with silver veins. Her eyes no longer just silver. But Starforged locked on Elias. He flinched. She was glowing like a god reborn. "I can't hold it in." She choked. "It's breaking through me." Elias grabbed her arms, grounding her. "Then let it. I won't run." She sobbed, pressing her forehead to his. "What if it consumes me? I'll bring you back." She arched again, power bursting outward. Trees cracked. The stones around them pulsed. A beam of light shot from her chest into the sky, visible for miles. Kale saw it from Stormwatch's highest tower. He knew, then, she's awakened. Celeste stepped beside him. Then Elias completed the bond. Kale's voice was hollow. He's no longer just Alpha, he's hers. Back in the clearing, Sienna finally collapsed, breathing hard. Shaking Dot, Elias pulled her into his arms. "You came back," she whispered. "I never left." The shock waves spread across the supernatural realms. In the north, the vampire queen felt it and shattered her goblet of blood in the east. The witches of the Pale Spire screamed as their oracles were blinded. In the Phi courts, ancient kings stirred for the first time in centuries. The moon-touched had awakened, and they would come for her. Dot, not to worship, to kill. Sienna sat by the fire, blanket wrapped around her. Elias stood with Kale's scout maps spread across the rocks. "They'll send hunters," Elias said. "Godslayers, primals, things we've never seen. And you still want to stand beside me?" Sienna asked softly. "I bonded myself to a goddess," Elias said. "That doesn't make me weak. It makes me worthy." She looked at him. "You'll be hunted too." "Good," Elias said. "Let them come. I'll bury them." Kale entered the camp, then he had gone silent for hours. They've taken control of Stormwatch's inner ring. Your mark is branded out of the Alpha Vault. They've declared you dead. Elias didn't blink. Then let's give them a ghost to fear. Stormwatch was cold under a blood moon. Elias stood at the front gate, flanked by Kale and Sienna, cloaked. In shadow, his warriors stood atop the walls, hesitant, uncertain, their blades drawn. Kale's voice rang out. He is not dead. He is not gone. You followed him through war, famine, the Crimson Reaper sieged. Now you follow a council of cowards. No answer. Celeste emerged from the front gate, dressed in the robes of the new High Command. She smirked. This is a mistake, Elias. Elias stepped forward, Sienna's power coiled behind him like Stormwind. He spoke calmly. Stormwatch does not kneel to traitors. You've misjudged me. Celeste raised her chin. You chose her, a walking apocalypse. I chose truth. I chose power. I chose my mate. His voice dropped to a growl. And you took what was mine. The gates cracked open. Lorene, once doubting, stepped forward and dropped to one knee. One by one soldiers followed. Kale smiled grimly. Looks like the pack remembers who commands storms. Celeste's eyes narrowed. You'll doom us all. Elias turned to Sienna. You ready to take back what's ours? She nodded once. Let them come. Elias drew his blade. Then Stormwatch rises. Elias stood in the war hall, the great doors of Stormwatch sealed behind him. Warriors lined the stone floor in 2 rows, eyes fixed on their alpha returned from death. Blood and ash streaked his armor. Sienna stood behind him, cloaked in black, her silver mark glowing faintly. She was combat, ready to burn the world. Elias raised his voice. I was hunted, branded a traitor. You were told I was weak. No one spoke. He stepped forward, voice colder. You were lied to. A few heads lowered. A few didn't. Kale stood beside him, chin high, sword across his back. We fought the elders, witches, vampires, traitor wolves, all to bring her back to you. Celeste watched from the shadows of the hall, face unreadable. Elias's voice hardened. She is. The moon touched. The vessel of the goddess. My bonded mate. A few murmurs of dissent rippled through the crowd. She is not a threat to this pack, Elias growled, but I am. He stepped into the center of the room and unsheathed his blade. If you want my throne, try and take it. No one moved. A moment passed, then 2. Lauren dropped to one knee, followed by another, then another, until the hall was filled with kneeling warriors. Elias looked to Sienna. They will protect you now, with their lives. Her eyes shimmered. What about you? I am their lives, he said, and I'd burn all of them before I let you fall. Stormwatch held its breath as the snow deepened. At midnight, she came on a sleigh pulled by wolves, made of bones and frost. The witch queen, Ruthless, of the pale spire. She stepped into the war hall, draped in black lace and crystal thorns. Her eyes like frozen glass. The moon touched at last. Elias was already in front of Sienna before she could take another step. You're not welcome here, he said. Ruthless smiled faintly. And yet here I am. Sienna stepped forward. Why are you here? To offer you answers, the witch said. You're unraveling, girl. Dreaming of cities not yet built. Tasting blood before it spills. That power inside you, it was never meant to be carried by a mortal body. Sienna hesitated. You know what I am. I know what's coming, Ruthless said. And I can help you survive it. Elias narrowed his eyes. What's the cost? The witch turned slowly. The boy, Cale stiffened. What? His life, Aerolith said, as if it were simple. Sacrificed under the red moon. His blood combined her power permanently. Sienna recoiled. No, Cale let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Not even a hesitation. Sienna stepped. In front of him, you saved my life more than once. I'm not trading yours for mine. Aerolith's smile faded. Then, when the other half of the prophecy comes, you'll be too weak to survive it. Elias grabbed his blade. You've overstayed your welcome. The Witch Queen turned to leave. I'll return when your hands are red, and the choice is no longer yours. Her wolves howled, and then she vanished into the snow. They attacked before dawn. Alpha Calder of the Iron Pelt, Pack a brutal traditionalist who'd once been. Elias's rival led an army of 200 wolves through the eastern wall, under cover of blizzard and betrayal. Sienna was in the watchtower when the alarms screamed. They're here for you, Cale shouted, sword drawn. Elias reached her in 3 strides. Stay hidden. She didn't move. They'll kill your warriors. They'll try. He pressed a kiss to her temple. Stay alive. Elias shifted mid-leap as he vaulted from the tower, landing in a pile of snow and blood. He tore through. 2 wolves before his feet hit the ground. Cale followed him, blade flashing. Sienna remained in the tower, watching, waiting. But when she saw Elias take a silver-tipped spear to the shoulder and drop to one, Nishi snapped, the sky split, a bolt of silver fire crashed from above, vaporizing the enemy flank. Snow turned to steam. Wolves screamed. Sienna floated from the tower, eyes blazing white, hands wreathed in fire. She raised both arms. You want the moon touched? They turned. Then take me. Flame erupted around her in a wide arc, scorching the field. Calder charged, snarling, but before he could reach her, she caught him mid-air and slammed him into the frozen earth. His bones shattered. The rest fled. Elias stood, bleeding, watching her as snow fell around her like ash. She turned to him, heart racing. I had to. He stepped forward, pulling her into him. You were magnificent, but I scared them. Good, Elias said. Fear keeps them alive. They found it carved into the walls of the Moon Temple ruins. Ancient runes, buried beneath lichen and frost. Sienna traced the prophecy with her fingers, voice trembling. When the moon bleeds silver and fire falls from the heavens, the 2 shall rise, one reborn to save, the other cursed to end. Cale read it beside her, 2 moon touched. Elias stared at the runes, his expression darkening. It's always been 2, he said. The goddess and her twin. Sienna stepped back. Twin, Elias nodded. The goddess was split in 2 during the Celestial War. One side light, one side wrath. She didn't just hide her power in me, Sienna said. She split herself. Cale frowned. Then who's the other? We don't know, Elias said. But when they find each other, one will die. Sienna swallowed. Which one? Elias turned to her, jaw tight. It won't be you. What if it has to be me? She whispered. He grabbed her face, voice rough. Don't say that. You're mine, and I don't lose what's mine. Cale stepped away, giving them space. Sienna looked at the moon. She's out there, she said. I can feel her. My other half, Elias's voice was a growl. Then let her come. I'll tear the sky in half to keep you breathing. Stormwatch held its breath. Sienna stood in the war room, cloaked in black eyes silver. Her presence rippled through the stone walls. Cale watched her with worry. Elias watched her with fury. "You're leaving?" he asked, voice cold. "I have. 2, she said quietly. "The prophecy. I don't care about fate. You should." She stepped toward him. "If I stay, they'll keep coming. Witches, vampires, defy, celestials. They want me dead, and they'll burn your people to reach me. I can protect you, I know. But who protects the pack when you're busy keeping me alive?" His voice cracked. "You think I care about them more than you?" "I think," she said gently, "that I care about you more than I should." Elias moved fast, grabbing her by the waist and kissing her like it was war. She kissed him back. When they parted, her eyes were wet. "I'll come back," she whispered. "You're not going anywhere?" he growled. "I'll chain you to this floor." She smiled through tears. "You'd have to catch me first." She slipped past him. Elias didn't follow, but the second the gate shut behind her, he punched the stone wall-blooded. His knuckles and whispered, "Come back to me." Sienna crossed the frozen plains alone. She'd left Stormwatch behind. Elias left the warmth of his arms, the storm in his eyes to follow the pull, in her blood, because she felt him now, the other, the missing half of the moon goddess's soul. She reached the ancient clearing near the hollow veil, where the veil between realms thinned, and there, standing beneath a sky smeared with blood-red light, was him. He looked human, young, beautiful, starved of warmth, his silver hair mirrored hers, his eyes pitch-black pits full of ancient hunger locked onto her. "Sister," he said, smiling, "you found me." Sienna's heart slammed in her chest. "You're not my brother." "No," he said, stepping closer. "I'm what?" She left behind the rage, the wrath, the fire that burned too long. He was the Moon-Eater, the corrupted twin reborn. He extended his hand. "Join me. Together we can destroy every chain the gods forged, reclaim what they stole, burn the weak. You were meant for more than this, crawling with mortals, sleeping beside wolves." She didn't move. "You've already started changing," he whispered. "You feel it, don't you? The visions, the urges, the thirst for power. You think Elias can hold you when the god inside you finally wakes?" Her breath caught. "Leave the wolves behind," he said, "or I'll burn them down." And then he vanished into mist, leaving only ash. Where he stood, Sienna returned at dawn. She was silent when the guards opened the gates. Cale met her first. "You found him," she nodded. "He's worse than I feared." Cale studied her face. "Does Elias know?" "No," she whispered, "but he will." Inside the Alpha's quarters, Elias stood shirtless at the map table, bloodied hands braced against the stone. His eyes lifted the moment she entered. "You came back." She crossed the room and threw herself into his arms. "I found the Moon-Eater," she said. "He's not a man. He's the rage she cut out of herself." Elias' voice was cold steel. "Then he dies. He's growing stronger every hour. If he finds the last piece of Herf, he absorbs. May he'll become a god." "You won't let that happen," Elias said. Tears slipped down her cheek. "What if I don't have a choice?" Elias lifted her chin. "Then I'll mark you, fully. No half-bonds, no space between us." Sienna flinched. "If you mark me completely, your soul becomes mine," Elias said, "forever. You'll never walk this world alone." He bared his fangs, and Sienna offered her throat. He bit deep, the mark took instantly, flames flooding both their veins, their hearts, their bond. When he pulled back, Elias cradled her face and said, "Let him try to take you now." They returned to the Moon Temple. Elder Marius and the last surviving council, wolves, waited at the sacred dais. The trial of the goddess was ancient. No warrior had ever survived it. "You must walk the starfire path alone," Marius said. "No wolf may enter, not even your mate." Elias growled but said nothing. Sienna stepped barefoot into the glowing circle of runes. The ground lit beneath. Her dots suddenly dashed darkness. She stood in a void, her own heartbeat the only sound. Then voices surrounded her. "You are not real," one hissed. "You are a vessel. You are a weapon," another sang. "Born to kill. You are her puppet." Visions assaulted her. Burning cities, screaming wolves. Elias stared in her arms, throat torn open. "No," she whispered. "I won't lose him." She dropped to her knees. "I'm not just the goddess. I'm Sienna. I choose who I love, who I protect, who I become." Her mark blazed gold. The void cracked, and a voice not her own whispered, "Then rise, child of moon and blood." The light returned. She opened her eyes back in the temple. Elias rushed to her, catching her before she fell. "Did you pass?" he asked. "I chose myself," she said, and that was enough. The warning came too late. Sienna sat with Kale in the war room. When a scout burst through the doors, someone opened the gates. Nightfall clan mercenaries there inside. Elias roared from the upper level. Stormwatch, lit with flames and screams. The betrayal had come from within. Kale leaped to his feet. They were paid. Someone sold her location. Elias found the traitor in the western tower. Celeste, she stood with blood on her hands and silver coins in her pouch. "You would have led the pack to extinction," she spat. The Monitor offered peace. All he asked for was her. Elias didn't flinch. "You always hated her," he said, "because I never looked at you the way I look at her." Celeste's lip curled. "She's not even human anymore. She's mine." Elias grabbed her throat, holding her against the stone. "And you tried to sell her like a lamb to slaughter. She destroy you," Celeste hissed. "Like the prophecy said." Elias's eyes turned black. "Then I'll burn with her." He handed her to the guards. "Lock her below. She dies after the war." They stood side by side on Stormwatch's highest wall. Below an army, the Monitor had arrived. He stood at the center of an army of rogue wolves, 5 shadows, cursed witches, and broken gods. A god in human skin, smiling. "You ready?" Sienna asked, her voice calm. Elias rolled his shoulders. "Born ready." He stepped forward, his wolf rising beneath, his skin black as night, bigger than ever before. Power surged through him. The bonded mark between them glowed. Elias leaped from the wall and shifted midair, crashing into enemy lines like a cannonball. Sienna followed, eyes lit with white fire, her body alight with divine magic. They fought. Back-2-back. Elias tore through 5 warriors with brutal efficiency, claws ripping through armor like silk. Sienna summoned firestorms with her hands, her voice speaking words that melted metal. When the Monitor finally stepped forward, Elias stood protectively in front of her. "Touch her," he growled, "and I'll rip the stars out of your spine." The Monitor laughed. "We'll see." The final war had begun, and Stormwatch burned with storm and fire. The great hall of Stormwatch was filled with howling wind and heavy silence. Sienna stood on the elevated dais, cloaked in silver and black. Her mark burned bright across her shoulders, pulsing like the heartbeat of the moon itself. Behind her, Elias stood as always unyielding, his gaze a storm wrapped in steel. The pack's alphas had gathered from across the lands. Some knelt, others shifted uneasily in place. Alpha Loren was first. He dropped to one knee, head bowed. Moon-touched queen, may your reign bring strength. A ripple of whispers swept the hall. Mara of the Iron Pelt Pack refused to kneel. Instead, she stepped forward, voice sharp. You claim the goddess's power, but how long before she devours you? Sienna met her stare, eyes glowing. I am no one's victim, Elias growled softly, hand resting on the hilt of his blade. She is queen by right. Anyone who doubts that will answer to me. Mara sneered. You always did worship your mate like a god. Elias's lips curled in a cruel smile, because she is one. Celeste lingered near the shadows, her smile tight. Be careful, she warned. Not all crowns are gifts. Some are chains. Sienna's voice rang clear. Chains are broken when the strong wear them. The hall erupted in a mix of cheers and gritted teeth. Elias squeezed her hand beneath his cloak. You're fated and feared. They will bore, they will burn. Night found Sienna alone in the sacred chamber, moonlight filtering through cracked stone. Her hands trembled as the visions came. A world aflame, cities collapsing beneath shadows and blood. A crown of bone, heavy and cruel, and Elias falling his. Blood staining the cold ground, eyes closed as he slipped away. She gasped and clutched her chest. No. The voice of the goddess echoed in her mind. Whisper in ancient tongue. The end is only the beginning. Kale entered quietly. You're seeing it again. Sienna nodded, eyes distant. The war will cost him everything. Kale sat beside her. He won't die alone. I fear it will break me, she said. He'll need you whole, Kale said. And you'll need him. Sienna reached for the pendant around her neck, silver crescent cradling a star. Then we fight, she whispered. For the world, for him. The air shimmered. A figure stepped through the portal, tall, regal, with eyes like molten gold, the High Lord. His voice was velvet and poison. Moon-touched queen, I offer an alliance. Elias's blade rested at his side. We don't make deals with shadows. The High Lord smiled, unfazed. I bring peace. Unite your realms, defy the wolves, the witches. Sienna stepped forward, voice steady. At what cost? A crown, he said. One forged of sacrifice and trust. Elias growled. Trust is earned, not given. The High Lord's smile faded. Then prepare for war. Sienna's eyes met Elias's. We will decide how we fight. The High Lord bowed low. I await your choice, Queen. With a shimmer, he vanished. Kale muttered, that man could be the death of us all. Elias's voice was cold. Or the last chance we have. Stormwatcher's healer's chamber was cold. Elias lay on the stone slab, eyes clenched. Sienna sat beside him, hands shaking as she held his. The mark of death glowed on his chest. Curse bound to the Moon Eater's dark magic. It's draining. Me, Elias whispered, voice rough. You'll fight it, Sienna said, tears shining. He smiled faintly. I've fought for you since the moment I saw you. You're not losing me. I'm not afraid to die, he said softly. But I'm afraid to lose you before I can. She kissed his forehead. You won't. Kale stood guard outside. Face grim, Elias's time is running out, he said. We need a plan. Sienna nodded, and soon the day of Sienna's coronation dawned cold and bright. The great square filled with warriors, nobles, and supernatural dignitaries. Sienna ascended the dais, crown of moonstone and starlight in hand. Elias stood behind her, armor gleaming, sword ready. The High Council chanted the ancient rites, but before the final blessing, horns sounded, the gates exploded inward. Nightfall clan mercenaries poured into the square. Chaos erupted. Elias roared and drew his blade. Sienna, protect the crown, he shouted. She summoned a shield of silver fire. The battle was brutal. Kale fought beside Elias, their swords ablur. Sienna called down storms of light and shadow. Celeste appeared, leading the mercenaries with a cruel smile. You will fall today, she taunted. Elias snarled, eyes black. Not while I breathe. The war for the throne had begun, and no one would walk away unchanged. Elias staggered, blood pouring from the deep wound across his ribs. Celeste's blade dripped with his blood as she grinned through cracked lips. Even storms fall, Elias. He didn't answer. Couldn. Single quotes to his knees as mercenaries swarmed around him. The courtyard burned bodies, banners, dreams. Sienna screamed. Across the square, she felt the exact moment his heart stuttered. Elias, Kale's blade, intercepted a second strike meant for Elias's neck. Get him out, Kale yelled, but Sienna was already moving. Power burst from her palms, and the sky fractured with silver fire. Celeste turned just in time to see Sienna lift both hands and unleash. The courtyard exploded in a wave of divine rage. Flames spiraled into spears. Shadows dissolved. Mercenaries turned to ash mid-scream. Celeste dropped her blade, eyes wide. What are you? Sienna stepped forward, voice inhuman. Judgment. She raised her hand, and Celeste vanished in a column of silver. Flame. Silence. Smoke drifted over scorched earth. Sienna dropped to Elias's side, pressing her hand over his heart. It barely beat. No, she whispered, choking. You don't get to leave me. Kale knelt beside her. We need a healer. No, Sienna said. Her eyes glowed. I'm going after him. Darkness, silence, a void colder than death. Sienna drifted into the in-between, heart tethered to a man she refused to lose. She wore no crown, no armor, only light. In the distance, she saw Elias, alone in the white mist, kneeling in blood. He didn't look up when she called his name. She ran to him, Elias. He looked over his shoulder. You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be dead. He smiled faintly. You burned the world for me, didn't you? Tears streaked down her cheeks. And I'll do it again if you don't get up. He reached for her, but his hand passed through hers. I can't, he said. I'm already gone. No, she snapped, grabbing his face. You are mine. You made me yours. You think I'd let you walk into the dark while I keep breathing? He closed his eyes. I'm tired, Sienna. Then rest with me. She kissed him. A blinding pulse of starlight surged through the void. Elias gasped and his heart started beating again. Elias opened his eyes in the healer's den. His body trembled. He felt different, sharper, wilder, stronger. His senses were not just alpha, they were otherworldly. Kale stood nearby, speechless. Sienna sat beside him, fingers tangled in his hair. You brought me back, he said hoarsely. You never left me. she whispered. He sat up, the mark on his chest glowing gold. His eyes flickered between black and silver. What am I now? Mine, she whispered, and then she straddled his lap and kissed him deep, desperate, claiming. Their marks blazed as the celestial bond completed. His soul twined with hers, alpha and goddess, storm and star. Their breaths synced, their hearts fused. He pressed his forehead to hers. You gave me life, you gave me reason, she said. Now we burn together. Lightning cracked outside the den, and Stormwatch howled with rebirth. A year passed. Stormwatch stood taller than ever, rebuilt with stone, flame, and blood. It had become a haven for rogues, hybrids, cursed wolves, half-bloods, a place where the unwanted found safety. Alpha Elias ruled from the fortress walls, blade always at his hip, but no longer alone. Sienna ruled beside him, queen of moonlight and fire. Kale became general of the new legion. Loring oversaw the training, camps. Even Celeste's betrayal became legend, her name a warning carved into stone. Elias stood with Sienna at the new border gates. A rogue family approached, ragged and hunted. The father bowed. We seek sanctuary. Elias eyed them with quiet calculation. What do you bring? The man faltered. Only truth. Elias nodded once. Then that's enough. He turned to Sienna. You were right. This is the future. She smiled and threaded her fingers through his. It always was. The full moon rose over the lake behind Stormwatch. Sienna stood barefoot in the water, dress trailing behind her like a second moonbeam. Elias approached from the trees, shirtless, scarred eyes, locked on her like a storm returning to shore. You're not supposed to be watching, she teased. I don't follow rules, he murmured, especially not when you're glowing like that. She turned, slowly, the silver runes along her collarbone shining. Do you regret it? What? Marking me? Binding yourself to this madness? Elias stepped into the water, pulling her close. I don't regret a damn thing. You were the chaos my soul was always hungry for. She rested her head against his chest. I was born for you. He tilted her chin up. Then I'll kill fate itself to keep you. And beneath the full moon, storm and moonlight kissed, their bond eternal, their war finally won, but their legend only just beginning.